This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by Monk Pack. Monk Pack offers low sugar, keto-friendly bars which are plant-based, gluten-free, and non-GMO. They're the perfect snack for anyone who is trying to eat better or cut back on sugar and carbs without sacrificing taste. Monk Pack keto granola bars and nut and seed bars contain 1 gram of sugar or less, 2 to 3 grams of net carbs, and each bar contains 150 calories or less. Ian, they're all fantastic tasting. One of my favorites, though, is the sea salt dark chocolate.
That's a good one.
You got the sweetness, you got the saltiness. It's a perfect combination. Look at the gooiness right there and how sweet that is.
Yeah,
They're good.
They're great. Monk Pack bars have an amazing chewy texture and come in delicious flavors like sea salt dark chocolate, coconut cocoa chip, caramel sea salt. There's a coconut almond one that I'm particularly big on, a honey nut granola bar. They're perfect for a quick breakfast, a snack between work meetings, or as a guilt-free decadent dessert. By shopping online, you can avoid another trip to the grocery store and have Monk Pack delivered right to your door. These bars are not just for people eating keto. They're a great snack for anyone looking to reduce their sugar intake while still enjoying delicious, flavorful snacks. They contain real ingredients that are delicious and nutritious for your whole family. In addition to being keto-friendly, the bars are also gluten-free, plant-based, and non-GMO. There's no sugar alcohols, soy, or artificial colors. I really like the allulose sugar that they use. It's chewy. It's like a caramel. It's very tasty.
It's a natural sweetener.
Monk Pack is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll exchange the product or refund your money, whichever you prefer.
Get 20% off your first purchase of any Monk Pack product by visiting monkpack.com and entering our code CU Podcast at checkout. To get started, just go to monkpack.com. That's MUNKPACK.com and select any product. Then enter the code CU Podcast at checkout to save 20% off your purchase of these yummy bars. Ian,
Patrick,
the video game years turned 10 years old yesterday on YouTube. It was January 10th, 2012, 1977. I think the first 3 parts were uploaded. It was like part 1 to my channel and like Rue's channel and the Retroware YouTube channel. And then parts 2 and 3 were done at the same time to Retroware site. And then part 4 came out. It was the beginning of the video game years. It actually premiered at MagFest. The first part did in 2012 there at the panel I was at. And 10 years is a long time. Looking back, a lot's happened in 10 years. I tweeted out, yes, I don't know if you saw my tweet about the anniversary.
Yeah.
I basically said the video game years documentary series, it helped pave the way for the modern video game doc. And we could talk about maybe there was a bigger impact than we thought, because at the time there wasn't a glut of video game documentaries. You had King of Kong, you had like Video Game the Movie, maybe 1 or 2
Indie
other.
Game the Movie.
Indie Game the Movie. Was there also like a Video Game the Movie as well that came out that was like a sort of like surface look at video games?
I don't know.
But there wasn't a lot of them. Like now they come out every other month.
Sure.
You know. Yeah. So Video Games the Movie came out 2014, so that was a couple years after. That was a 45-minute like short thing. So there wasn't that much. 2012 was still in the sort of era where retro gaming was still niche to like a lot of people. It wasn't like adopted part and parcel by like the larger game companies yet to that extent, like it has been the past 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And obviously YouTube was a different time in 2012. It was closer to how it was originally versus now. You didn't have like a huge amount of the MCNs yet. You didn't have a lot of people at the time that were monetized in terms of even uploading stuff. We weren't making money uploading video game years.
No, there was like no money in video game years at the time.
It was a passion project, but at the time I don't think we were too close to it, meaning you probably to realize what was being created. And it's probably better than what I thought it to be because we were close to it. I don't know. What you have thoughts looking back 10 years?
I mean, I don't have a ton of thoughts on it. It was fun to do it. It does seem to constantly keep getting brought up in modern times. It seems like every once in a while, someone with, some sort of following notices it and talks about it. And, you hear about it and people remember working on it again. That's where I met a lot of the people that I talk to online, video game wise, to this day. It's probably how I met Dan from Gigaboots, who I talk to, fairly fairly regularly.
One of the editors.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun to make. You know, I wonder how much people think that it was, you know, really planned out and organized. It wasn't.
The first years definitely were not, for sure.
Yeah.
The 70s ones were not. They were. It was more like, okay, we have topics.
We fell into a weird hole too, where we felt like because it was a 45-minute long show and we could cover enough, we also oftentimes felt like we needed to cover too much. We did not cut things that we probably should have cut.
Well, some games made the cut, Ian, that were argued and lobbied for, we'll just say, by the group of us that decided the topics each year. It was three of us. It was Joey, Rue from Clan of Grey Wolf, Ian, and myself. We'd sit down and we hash out the topic list each year. That's what we did, starting in the 80s. So when we started doing that.
And usually it ended up being, when there was an argument, it was usually between Joey and you, and I would have to find the middle ground. And
is that what happened?
Yeah, I felt like I made a lot of decisions that you two were on diametrically opposed on.
Was he more right than me, or was it like 50-50?
No, I think it was about 50-50. That is one thing I remember. Like, I wasn't always against you, and I wasn't always against Joey. I felt like it really did come down like 50-50. There were some things Joey wanted to cover that were too esoteric, and there were some things that I feel like you felt were way more important than they were. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of examples in my head right now, but I know that occurred.
But I think we managed.
Yeah, we could all go back to those now. Yes. You, Joey, and I could all go back to those lists now and probably cut.
No, Mylan's Secret Castle. Mylan's Secret Castle should not have made it.
Right.
Mylan's Secret Castle should not have made it. Bayou Billy should not have made it. A bunch of those should not have made it. They were not historically significant or had a long running sort of run afterwards to be significant enough to make looking back, especially we're talking like only like the 87, 88, 89 episodes, they got bloated out with stuff or like, we didn't need to talk about Wizards and Warriors. We didn't need to talk about, even though we love Goonies 2, we didn't talk about Goonies 2. You know, some games like that.
I would argue something like Goonies because it was related to Goonies. And at the time we were aping a pop culture clip show. I felt like something like the Goonies fit. I feel like Wizards and Warriors had 3 games. It was a huge franchise at the time. The people that should have been targeted by it at the time probably would have been like, yeah, I remember Wizards and Warriors. It makes sense. It was
sure, yes.
Looking at it now in a modern era as something that people go to learn about some stuff.
No.
Well, that changes it entirely.
Yeah.
Because now we're not just talking about memories, we're talking about, that's the difference. You look at it like a clip show and a lot of that stuff can stay. If you want to look at video game years as some sort of educational primer, then yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't need to be there.
I guess we try to straddle the line because there's some stuff you looked at, like why did you talk about Earl Weaver's baseball, for example? It was a very important game in the history of games, but no one obviously talks about Earl Weaver's baseball today. Right. You know what I mean? It's like it was the baseball version of like John Madden. Football. So baseball.
I think a lot of how people look at what video game years has changed over time. Back then, a lot of those made more sense. Now, not so much.
A lot happens in 10 years. Well, it was 2012 too. I think 89 came out early 2015. So it was like 3 years to do all 13 episodes. I think that's about what it was in terms of release dates there. It was also, you know, it was a combination of all these people. At one point, obviously people dropped off. Certain YouTubers dropped off. Some came on. We solidified. There was always the base of video games was always Pixel Dan, good old Eric Lapp, Ian, me, John, and Lance. Yep. That was the core that appeared in every single episode. And Joey. Joey missed 1 year, but for the most part, he was in all of them. You know. I think Joey missed 1 year or parts of 1 year, but that was the core, say 7 people that kept the show alive in terms of like making sure we had enough commenting on the topics every time, making sure that we could sustain it because people would drop off. People would just say, I want to talk about these popular games and that's it. And it's like, that's great. But like everyone wants to talk about the popular games.
Yeah. Eric was so good.
Eric was a trooper for that. And Dan, everyone. We were only not in 2 segments.
Yeah.
Somehow we didn't talk about Donkey Kong Jr., which I thought was weird. It was one of my all-time favorite arcade games.
Yeah, I love Donkey Kong Jr.
I think we were just, at the time, we're like, okay, we don't need to talk about that. And we didn't talk about the Video Games Magazine one. That was the other segment we didn't talk about. I think they were both the same year. Both were 82. Other than that, though, we were in every single segment. I think me and Ian had the distinction of being in like the most amount of segments. We would go into my old room at the condo, at the game room where we used to record the podcast, set up the green screen, try to get the fucking lighting right. Because even 10 years ago, the green screen like the editing software has come a long way. You can get away with a lot more now than you used to. So the lighting was always an issue. The spacing was always tough. That game room was a third of the size of this room, if not a quarter the size.
Oh yeah, no, it was small.
It was tiny. I would always get pissed at how small it was. It would always see me rage out how small it fucking was, especially when I had the big main machine in the corner. I'm like, there's no room in here. I get so pissed.
Yeah, that main machine took up a lot of space.
Yeah. And we had fun shooting that.
No, it was a good time.
At one point, it was like we shot them like
I don't think I ever had a bad time shooting that.
Like once a month or 2 months. And most of what we shot was off the cuff. I think a couple things we planned jokes. For the most part, it was all off the cuff stuff, and we just rolled with it.
A lot of it was it was info off the top of my head too. I mean, some of those I would check articles, I would check Wikipedia, then check those sources and stuff like that. But a lot of it was just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of that stuff, I don't know that I could do as much of it off the top of my head now as I did then. I was just so much more
with the information, or
enveloped within the information. Yeah.
Okay. And remember, people don't. Maybe they don't. That was before the podcast. We started filming those in the fall 2011.
Oh yeah.
So people just knew Ian from the marathon. One or two marathons I saw of Ian, and from the NES Punk videos, the couple he was in.
People always ask where the gaming gadfly joke came from, and it was only supposed to be in there once, but
John kept it in.
John kept it, but it was just a reference to Mo Rocca, who I always thought was really funny, who
was on the I Love the 80s and 70s.
On the I Love the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and was listed as, I think, media gadfly or something like that.
Yeah, so that's, but then obviously the podcast started, more people knew Ian. And that's when we probably filmed the final episodes. I think it was 13 and 14 is when we filmed the final ones. We probably filmed 89 sometime in, I guess, early or the mid 2014. Then the editing process was a wreck to try to manage with John and me, between all the editors, just because you have all these different editors trying to piece together something cohesive between multiple editors that are all underpaid, doing it as a passion project, and to try to mold something that looks like one piece of entertainment. We tried. So if you don't know the process, what happened was this. Once you got to the 80s, once I got more involved in production, so the three of us, Joey, Ian, and me, would choose the topics. We send out the topic list to all the people to shoot them. And then it's hoping you get it back in time. There was always editors pissed at some contributors that didn't get back their stuff in time. It delayed things. It was always, oh God, that Facebook group was awful. With all of us in there. There was so much back and forth and people getting upset about things. So what happened was you get the edits in. I looked through, I was responsible for all the content you see on every show from 82 to 89. I would see the edit. I would see, okay, here's the content edit. I worked with the editors on every single one of those. Say, okay, this information is missing, or we need something about this, go back and find it, or insert it here, trim out this. Then you lock that in. Then John handled the B-roll, the green screen, all the other, you know what I mean, like putting in the effects to make it look finished. That's how the process worked on the show from 82 to 89. 82, definitely by 83, 89. That's basically how it happened. And then hopefully it gets edited and hopefully it comes out and people like it. But it was before its time. John pitched it to History Channel. He had him actually because he had contacts there because he used to work in the cable TV sort of area. And they said at the time, which looking back, it's like, screw you, because now it's what the stuff you'd put on TV with all this. They said, this is not for our audience. It's for our audience's younger brother. That's what they told him like 10 years ago, 9 years ago, whenever it was pitched to them. And it's like, now you have Crackle with their documentary. Netflix has, you got the Playing with Power Crackle thing. Netflix has their, was it High Score documentary? You have the Nintendo, you have all these documentaries come out all the time. And it's like, maybe we were, maybe it was too soon. Maybe looking back, if you know the knowledge now, you would have done it a little more formal, not through talking heads, but there was nothing else to compare it against.
Right.
There was nothing else out there. No one cared. That's the thing. No one cared enough to at least try to document the history in that way. That's probably why we did it. Right? I mean,
yeah. No, that's exactly. There wasn't anything else like it.
And eventually found the audience on Amazon Prime. There was an audience on YouTube, but not to justify. I remember one YouTuber said this is the best show on YouTube that no one's watching. You know, like
Sure.
someone said that. And it's like, yeah, you're talking 2012 YouTube. Like you're talking like you didn't do TV quality shit back then or closer to TV quality. It just didn't happen because it's too many
Yeah,
people.
it was probably, I mean, one of the most produced shows on YouTube at the time.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. Especially once you get to the 80s.
Yeah,
Like,
there's great transitions and stuff. In
transitions, but even like the flow of the show and things like that. I love Ian's popular pinball machine segment.
Oh, that was fun to do.
I always loved that because I always try to make him laugh. A lot of times when you see those, it's Ian like snickering at the end of it because I've like made him laugh or try to make him laugh and things like that. And there's a lot of good memories, and it brought a lot of us together. And a lot of people, I think, I've commented like, "This is how I discovered a lot of you doing these videos."
Oh, sure. I know a lot of people who found me first on that.
Yeah, because you have all these different people doing the show that weren't normally connected, and some of them weren't even on RetroAir, and they still were on the show. And obviously, we had people that actually made the games. We had Keith Robinson, on the show. We had Howard Phillips, and we try to work in as best we had Tommy Tallarico on the show to give his perspective. We try to work in some people here and there. We did our best. Besides big YouTubers, besides people like Eagle Raptor, Aaron Hansen, we try to work in people to the show.
I don't know anything about him. And I feel
don't have his fan base come after us.
I mean, it's not, but I mean, he did not want to. I'll word this. He did not want to be on that show.
You think so? Why did he say yes to me then?
I don't know.
I recruited him at MagFest. I roped him in. I think he wanted to. Ian. It was fun.
I don't know anything about it. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm just saying, he didn't say much. Made a lot of noises.
He said a good amount of stuff. It was funny.
All right.
Well, you weren't in the room when I was interviewing him. I interviewed him.
I'm talking about what ended up on like. It felt like starring Aaron Hansen to star Aaron Hansen. Like,
I knew Aaron before like the Game Grumps thing. Before like he was always a good guy at MagFest. Talked to me and Joey.
Oh yeah, this is not a personal.
Yeah,
it's not a personal attack.
I was like Aaron, you want to be? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he came upstairs and he did it. Yeah, I interviewed him. I interviewed Howard Phillips. I interviewed James Rolfe. I interviewed Mike Matei for the show. I interviewed good old Pro Jared. I think I did his interview.
Oof.
I did a chunk of those, and then John.
What a pro.
John did. He interviewed Keith Robinson. I was not in the room for the Tommy Tallarico interview. I just met him briefly, and then David Crane. John interviewed him. He interviewed the other luminaries. The only luminary I interviewed was Howard Phillips. And that was a weird experience with me and John there trying to do it. He was there as well. He asked a weird question. I remember, and I just like, I looked at him like, what is that question you just asked? But I loved working with John because we come from two different sort of sides looking at these sort of things. And he's a good co-directing partner, John. It was John's idea for the show. I just named it. It was John's idea. In terms of the name, it was like, well, we got the Wonder Years. How about Video Game Years? And like, well, that's not the best name. We'll see if we come up with a better name. And we couldn't come up with. We never did. There was no other name. Like that was it. That was it. Which I guess made sense. Because we wanted to say like I love video games. We didn't want to do that because it was too close to I love
a little too.
Yeah. But Video Game Years was like the worst case scenario. So all right, well. People wanted a 90s announcement. It's like, well, it costs too much money. This show should not have been made. That's the bottom line. Looking back, this show should not have been made for the fact that like people were not paid enough for their work. John and I were not paid to produce it. Ian wasn't paid
anything.
Joey wasn't paid. It should not have been made.
Also, I honestly, despite the fact that people like it, I think those people also probably have a larger nostalgia for clip shows and stuff than they realize. I don't think that format wouldn't work today.
It would have to be tinkered with. If we went back to it, it would have to be tinkered.
Yes.
It would have to be more how the modern docs are, where you talk to people, but then you go off and show footage of stuff.
Yes.
Then you come back to like
we could not do another Talking Heads show.
Not that heavily focused like the VH1 style. No, it would not work. But here's the 10 years, Video Game Years. Here's the 10 years. Hopefully we educated some people while made them laugh, Ian, right?
Hopefully.